Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is KarQ, and today I have a hero tier list for this Overwatch 2 Beta 2.0 Patch 1. This is just my opinion, and to help set the context, I'm a 4.5k peak support player, and I played about 20 hours on this patch, so that's the lens I'll be looking at this with. But quickly, I want to mention that during this beta, there is a Support a Streamer event on Twitch where if you gift 3 subscriptions to my channel at twitch.tv/KarQ, you can acquire this exclusive legendary medic Brig skin. It's up to you. There's other fantastic creators you can support instead if you want this skin, but if you choose my stream, I'm grateful. And thanks for the 500k subs and showing me so much love over the years. Let's get started. D.Va is playable in my opinion. Not good, but playable in C tier. She received a decent buff with better armor distribution, and that inherently makes her more tanky. She does a bit of everything pretty well, like good mobility, can burst damage, can peel, but a jack of all trades and a master of none sorta drops her viability in the higher ranks because it feels like high elo players kind of fixate on a hero that does one thing well and then builds an entire comp around it. That being said, for most average players, picking up a versatile hero when you don't know what to play has its value too, and I think she's being slept on a bit and is probably like 1 or 2 buffs away from being a really good pick, but for now, C tier. Doomfist's 2 nerfs this beta patch dropped his decent viability all the way down to niche in D tier. With Seismic Slam no longer slowing enemies, this really hurt that uniqueness in being that fast dive hero, and to top that off, his power block being nerfed as well, and support's getting a ton of other buffs like Zen, Bap. It's just really hard for Doomfist to get into deep backlines and assassinate anyone, so he's naturally fallen down to D tier with better dive options like Winston and Ball. And everyone's favorite shiny new toy, Junker Queen. I think she's good. She has some really glaring weaknesses and counters, but overall quite a solid hero in B tier. If this was a tier list for rating how fun a hero would be, she'd be at the top, but she is quite dependent on getting up close and hitting her knife throw. She gets absolutely melted by poke comps who play their distance, and things like Zen Discord own her, and Ana Anti-Nade, which stops her entire identity of self-healing. Players are still kind of figuring her out right now and getting away with a lot, so she feels really overpowered at first glance, but I promise you she's not S tier like some people are claiming, and she doesn't actually need nerfs right now. Orisa is also pretty good and has similar weaknesses to Junker Queen. She's a lot more potent now with her DPS, as her headshots now deal 2 times damage instead of the 1.5 times previously with the buff to the base amount. However, her Fortify now allows her to be headshot again, which is actually quite a significant nerf. She gets absolutely shredded by Discord Orb, and even worse, her ultimate, which grants natural Fortify, also now allows her to be headshot as a byproduct, and she stands still while she does it, so it's actually really hard for her to charge it up all the way despite the damage of the ultimate being buffed. That being said, she's good up close on brawly maps like King of the Hill and even push maps, and has her place right now in the middle of the pack here at B. Ryan received a minor 25 HP nerf and lost some net armor with the new distribution in his HP in this patch, but he's still a pretty good hero in my opinion. And since Baptiste got buffed, he's able to help sustain Ryan really well, and Ryan beats out Junker Queen Brawl, who's all over the queues right now. All in all, still a good hero in B tier. Roadhog is still a C tier hero, in my opinion, despite the minor buff to his whole hog in the previous beta, allowing him to control his ultimate channeling, which is the last change they made for him. He can punish poor positioning and can counter Junker Queen pretty well up close, since his shotgun is more potent than hers, and she has no armor to mitigate anything. I don't know, maybe I'm just a Roadhog hater and I hate seeing hogs in my game, but sometimes I do see him pop off, but at other times he also just feels like a giant battery for meta DPS heroes like Sojourn to farm 100 charge for her railgun off of him, so I find his viability still up in the air, so for now I'm gonna place him in C tier. He's playable. Sigma is also a pretty good hero. I underestimated him in the first beta, but I was pleasantly surprised on how annoying his single barrier could be in 5v5 with less people focusing it down. The Rock is also one of the few hard stunts left in the game, which I nearly forgot was buffed in damage, where he now has that one-shot combo for 200 HP heroes again. Solid good hero, B tier. Winston was the product of 2 nerfs in the latest patch, and went from perma-picked S tier down to good. These nerfs kind of just tune him back into a place where he's still a good hero. You just won't see him too often right now as everyone's just trying to play Junker Queen at the moment, but he'll still be one of your go-tos in dive comp in B tier. Wrecking Ball is also good as well if you know good ball tech. He actually received a buff near the end of the last beta where his knockback was buffed by 36%, putting it back in line with the original Overwatch 1 boops. This means he can double boop pretty effectively again, and with his ginormous HP pool, if he gets an effective adaptive shield off, he can be extremely disruptive in the right hands. I think Zarya is still a good, solid tank choice if you can get the ball rolling. She's especially powerful in the Junker Queen matchup with the bubble completely cleansing the bleed and stopping Junker Queen's healing. It is also one of the few things that stops that anti-healing effect from her ultimate. That being said, she still needs good energy to pop off, but control of that shared bubble cooldown has shown in higher level play that she can be a menace if played right, despite the minor nerfs in the last previous beta patch. Overall, still a B tier hero. Pretty good. Ashe goes into C tier because of the Mercy changes, which inherently nerfed so much of her movement tech. Without Mercy helping Ashe out, Ashe is usually off on her own now, and with other supports being harder to kill and Sojourn taking her place as the meta DPS, which we'll get to in a bit, she's fallen down to C tier. Bastion, if left unchecked, can totally be a playable hero in C. However, he has one of the biggest hitboxes in the DPS category, and without his self-healing, he still needs resources to safely fire down in sentry form. His power definitely spikes while he's in that form, but when it goes on cooldown, and if enemies are wise enough to just go behind natural cover to wait it out, he loses a lot of his pop, thus making him a D tier niche but playable sometimes hero. I think Blizzard did a pretty good job reworking Cassidy without the flashbang, as his magnetic grenade does 131 damage if it connects. And it's easy as hell to connect. It's fucking magnetic. He's a solid B tier hero for DPS output, and his recent buff in the last patch where he gets 50% damage reduction after rolling helped him in even more matchups like Surviving Tracer Pulse Bomb. Echo absolutely rolls certain common tanks like Junker Queen, Orisa, Reinhardt, Zarya. Like, what the hell can they do against her when she plays in the distance and pokes up in the air? And she's still got crazy good assassination power if she drops on a squishy hero, and Duplicate is still a get out of jail free card. She's a solid choice, B tier, and could arguably be higher if Mercy was a bit better right now. I think Genji was considered S tier in the first beta, but has fallen down in the tier list to be B tier indirectly due to supports getting giga buffed. Zen is hard as hell to kill now, and with Bap's instant regen burst heal, he's also harder to kill. That said, it could be argued he's still in the strong category, but I think he's more of a comp-dependent pick now, with his job harder to do and other DPSs getting buffed and taking his spot. B tier, still a good hero. Hanzo was technically nerfed a bit in Overwatch 2 relative to Overwatch 1 with his Storm Arrow breakpoints, but with the introduction of Junker Queen and Orisa being able to headshot and fortify, I think he's indirectly been brought back up to B tier. A good hero to help cover those matchups, long range one shot, has a lunge which can help prevent some dive, can give his team information with good sonar arrows, and that makes him pretty damn valuable at B tier. Junkrat went from a D tier hero up to a C tier playable state in this patch with his two gigantic buffs, one for his trap to be thrown across the map, and two, the hitbox of his primary fire grenades. He can actually help a lot in the Junker Queen matchup and knock her away with the concussion mine and trap her pretty easily if she isn't expecting it, which instantly increases Junkrat's viability since this tier list is again about general viability relative to popular meta picks. I expect his ranking to shift once the honeymoon phase of Junker Queen is over and a solid meta forms around him, but for now, C, playable. Mei is low-key kinda scary. The slowing 100 DPS primary fire is actually no joke, and with Junker Queen coming in hot, you can punish her pretty easily. The wall is also an incredibly powerful tool to isolate enemy support sightlines or to punish immobile tanks going in too deep, making Mei incredibly good despite not having that free stun any longer, and that's why I put her at B tier. Pretty good hero. Pharah got some much needed buffs with a faster reload which naturally increases her DPS and 30 damage on concussive, along with an even bigger knockback which makes matchups she's good on even better. For example, you can send the enemy Junker Queen far away, shutting down her effectiveness. If you run her against no hit scans, you will absolutely dominate if you're unchecked, and I rate her pretty high up in B tier. She's pretty good right now. Reaper is scary up close, and surprise surprise, Junker Queen needs to get up close. And Reaper is like still decent at flanking and assassinating squishies, although that job has gotten a lot harder with the Zen and Baptiste buffs. Still doable though, but I actually think Reaper's playstyle has shifted a little bit, and they might find increased value by being anti-dive and tank busting. I think he's a B tier good hero, plus he also synergizes well with a Junker Queen on his team, because she can amp his speed and give him some overhealth if timed right, and he can just go in and do his thing. Sojourn is the biggest winner this patch, going straight to S tier and is almost a perma pick right now. And since the first alpha patch last month, she has received 4 straight buffs and she can do it all. She can poke and then slaughter with the railgun, which is way easier to hit now because of the hitbox buff. Then you add in the fact that her mobile slide has a higher uptime with the last buff, and you've got yourself a great S tier hero that everyone should be playing this patch. Soldier was the perma pick in the last beta, but all the nerfs to his DPS kind of tuned him down a bit. He's honestly still a pretty good hero though in B tier, but not much else to say. You should probably try to play more Sojourn. Sombra was considered a menace in S tier in the early alpha after her initial rework, but once people kind of got accustomed to her new style and after a few nerfs, she's kind of fallen down to C tier. Supports are harder to kill now, and she really needs a good team to complement her playstyle for her to work well. It's safe to say that the entire Symmetra minor rework attempt to improve her viability made her even worse. Despite getting a lot of her abilities receiving one major buff, like a faster secondary fire projectile and a quicker teleporter, it was also met with 4 nerfs alongside it, making her just even worse, all the way down in F tier. I understand what Blizzard was trying to do when reading these patch notes, but I think they went a little overboard and were fearing she'd be too OP as a fighting, brawling hero with that faster secondary fire, but honestly, I think it just does too little, especially in the pool of improved healing from all the supports. Despite the last Torb buff with the faster fire rate, he's still a D tier niche hero. He's worse in Overwatch 2 because his overload grants him that green overhealth instead of armor like in Overwatch 1, which has stronger defensive properties. That being said, D tier is technically still playable, and you'll see him pop up on occasional maps if the comp is right, but there are a lot of better options right now. Tracer is still a good hero in B. Despite her damage nerf, the highest level Overwatch League players still run her because she's still strong in the hands of players who have mastered her movement and high skill ceiling. For the average player, you'll find it tough to assassinate any supports or apply the same amount of pressure you see pros doing, so I actually think there are better options for you, but if you're a Tracer god, by all means, knock yourself out. Widow is back at 200 HP instead of 175 in Overwatch 2, and that helps her out a lot. And with Doomfist kind of falling out of the meta, there's actually less tanks who have that hyper mobility to challenge you if you play really far sight lines, barring like, I don't know, Ball for example. Regardless, she's a good hero in B tier if you can hit your shots. And honestly, her rating and ranking totally depends on the player more than anything. I rate her at B based on what I've seen, but you can totally have terrible Widows in your matches, so this one's kind of random. Ana is still one of the best designed heroes in the game and is a strong A tier hero. Great synergies, versatile, has many different playstyles. You can be really aggressive with the support role passive, allowing you to take some chip damage if you decide to aggressively peek, and you won't have to worry about self-nading if you duck back into cover after. Just let the passive do its thing. Nano has great synergy with a ton of heroes, and she still possesses one of the 2 anti-healing effects in the game, along with a sleep dart being a long-range stun. Can't go wrong with her at all right now. A tier. Bap has regained his lost step with the meta slowly shifting back to brawly comps with Junker Queen, Rein, Sigma, Orisa, and Baptiste is one of the best pairings for these beefy, more stationary heroes. Immortality is unmatched, and the instant regen burst healing with the last buff allows him to fight off so many flankers so much easier, raising his ranking all the way up to A tier as a strong hero right now. I'd rate Brig kind of between A and B. She's a really good hero right now in the right matchups. She's not as necessary in the Brig Zen or Brig Ana comps anymore, strictly because those heroes can actually defend themselves right now with that support passive in their kit. Regardless, she's still a great support hero that can offer a lot, like great targeted healing with the heal pack, soft CC to disrupt flankers, and pretty decent burst damage now that that shield bash is back at 50 damage. Solid, strong hero. Lucio is still a great choice, down a slight peg from S tier down to A tier in the last patch, strictly due to other supports getting some love lately. He's still a fantastic choice with brawl comps to amp the team up with speed and can switch to that Reddit assassin Lucio style if necessary in uncoordinated teams, making him a versatile menace in A tier. Mercy has fallen off significantly and might be the worst support right now this patch in D tier due to the mechanical change of automatically super jumping. On the surface, it makes it look easier and accessible for newer players, but it actually lowers her skill ceiling significantly because you can no longer do stuff like proper object jumping, you lose the super jump res gradient control of the height, and it honestly makes her super predictable now if you know she's gonna doing. I'd say the majority of Mercy players who have tried this iteration of her are so far not too happy, and for that reason, D tier. Moira is still a really good hero, and if there was a ranking between strong and good, I'd put her there, but the only reason why I lowered her to B tier is because of the rise of Baptiste, who takes her spot in the brawly comps. In solo queue for most players, she's still deadly and can heal a ton, can flank, can 1v1 a bunch of heroes. That being said, she's likely to get a minor rework next week as teased by the Overwatch team, so be on the lookout for that. Finally for Zen, he's legitimately one of the best heroes in the game right now. Discord Orb is so powerful in the single tank 5v5 metagame, and his weakness of being diveable has been completely mitigated with the addition of that 25 HP, the support roll passive, and of course, the Sparta kick snap kick, which does 45 damage instead of 30. Like that's insane. He can do it all. He does so much damage. He's got burst damage as a secondary fire. The Discord Orb melts tanks with that debuff. He can fight off flankers, so survivability is never in question, and Transcendence is still a fantastic ultimate. S tier all the way. And that's it for this tier list. It's subjective, but this is just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Come over to my stream this beta, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.